Good morning, everyone. This is episode 275 of the OotiniCast, being recorded live in various diverse locations around the planet, mostly in America this time, and a bit in Australia, which is where I happen to be located. And Bill has just reminded me I do need to tweet about the show, so let me do that. TweetDeck was actually not working, which is a little disturbing. So I'll have to do it the old-fashioned way. Tweet. Oops, Kuzo, I almost unfollowed you, sorry. Ah, very nice. I love the tweets about the show from the Utini Guild's Twitter account, which is Dekion most likely, and or Fee. Alright, tweeted. Thank you. Alright, so we've got Daniel back, as you can see, and Bill, who hasn't been on, he tells us, for 35 weeks. Jeez, it's a fair while.
It's 9 months. A lot can happen in 9 months.
Tell me about it.
Like coffee can happen.
So many operations. Wait, what?
What? Hey? Alright. Let me just get my mouse off. My microphone is squashing my mouse cord, but anyway, that's beside the point. I think we're ready, Chill. Let's make remember to record here. Okay.
I don't know why my voice has gotten all crazy hoarse. I think it's just because I was thirsty, so let me drink some water.
Sure. Oh, and aside, before Chill gets going, apparently Hangouts, which is what we use for the podcast, are going away, and they're replacing it with YouTube something.
Right.
Live.
What do they
YouTube
call
Live.
those? Mm-hmm.
Same effect, basically, but it's now rebranded or some shit. Whatever. Anyway, so it should make no difference, but there may be some technical difficulties as we transition to that next week.
Next week. Okay.
All right, Chill.
All right, going in 5. Hi, and welcome to the OotiniCast, the podcast that just lost its starboard engine. This is episode 275, being recorded on Thursday, August 25th, 2016. I'm your host, Chill, with our producer and co-host, Tio. Hi, Tio.
Hey, guys.
And our guest today, after a 9-month hiatus, is Moneybags Bill. How you doing, Bill?
Good, how are you?
Fine. And our psych friend, Daniel. How's things going in psychology there, Daniel?
Very busy. Thanks for having me back.
All right. Well, Bill, let's go ahead and start with you since it's been such a long time. Go ahead and let us know what you've been up to in the meantime and what you've been doing in-game recently, if possible, and all that good stuff.
Nothing really, just sitting around, twiddling my thumbs, wishing I had something to do.
I'm skeptical of that, Bill.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I've taken a long hiatus from SWTOR as well. I took a long time off. I didn't know what I was doing. Once Copy launched, I went through the 9 chapters. It didn't grab me. It didn't do much for me. So I did kind of walk away. I stayed subscribed for about another month while I started liquidating a lot of my inventory, which I found was to be a lot.
Yes.
I knew I was hoarding, but I just didn't have any idea the level it had gotten to.
Right.
At one point, I had been selling stuff. I was averaging 10 to 15 million credits a day in sales, just day after day after day after day after day.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
And about 6 weeks into this, I found a mule character that I had that had 24 full sets of armor, every piece, just sitting there. So, and some of those were like Revan Reborn.
Oh, wow.
And
Wow.
they were all worth multi-million, every single one. So eventually I got through about 75% of my inventory. I still have, I hit over 1 billion credits. I'm somewhere in 1.25 right now, and I still have probably 500 million in inventory. I still have just stuff everywhere.
So you really do put the bill in billionaire.
I do. I tweeted that out when I hit
You did,
it,
yes.
and I pinned it to my Twitter, And the most interesting thing happens. I pick up followers every week based upon that. They retweet it, they like it, and then follow me. And I found they're all female, and they're all under the age of 30, and they're all very attractive. So
Of course they are.
it's the strangest thing.
It's,
but it
well, what can you
makes
say?
sense.
Yes.
I did play a bunch of other games in the meantime. I'm proud to admit that I am obsessed with Pokemon Go. And
Okay.
You're one of those.
if you're a hater, I don't care. But this is listen to this. This is I before I even go into this, anybody at Bioware is listening, you can have this. I give up all rights to this idea for you. But this is the solution that we've wanted a long time ago when it came to a mobile crafting app. So if you step back and imagine, instead of, we always said the problem was if I could just send out my companions 24/7, it would completely break the economy. Probably
Right.
would. But if you imagine doing what Pokemon Go had done and say, I'm logged into my character while I walk around, and a random Rakul spawns in real life in front of me, and I have a simple fighting mechanic to kill it, and it gives me bioanalysis mats in return that can go straight
Right.
to my character. It's a way
Absolutely.
to keep the player engaged within your game 24/7, even when you can't log into a computer, and it brings in all of this thing into your real life. Which,
And you would, of course, have to be subscribed for any of that to work.
exactly.
Yep.
And
Why not?
it's one of those like crazy, like out of the box ideas that I think that's where Pokemon is really, to me, it's a proof of concept. Well,
Yeah.
Ingress before it, kind
Yes.
of, but
Same
Right.
guys who made it.
it has a lot of applications within the gaming industry. I don't think everybody's really thinking about yet, but it could really be groundbreaking. It's a crazy idea, but I think it'd be really cool if you're just walking down the street and you have a random droid spawned and you get,
Yeah.
mats.
You
from
get to
it. And it's,
or get to slice something.
yeah, it
That is
would
cool.
be interesting. So I do that. I got into No Man's Sky as well. I've been looking forward to that game for years. It's interesting. I don't know how much you guys follow. It's hard to avoid it within the gaming industry about the bad press it's gotten since it launched, because all the features that aren't there and people feel misled, and I
And
feel,
were they?
I personally, I feel like having the experience I've had over the last 5 years of seeing what's delivered versus what's been talked about in SWOTOR, it's kind of, no, I don't think it's so much misled as you're just not reading what they're putting down. You're
Right.
you're overlaying things that's really not what they're saying always. In some cases, I think there were things talked about that didn't make the final game. But I always said, I think Sean Murray was one of the first people I've heard to really have the guts to stand up and say, when he was questioned about a lot of things and not answering them, going, sometimes when we don't talk, it's because we're under a legal obligation not
Sure.
to talk.
Right.
I got
And
the
I think, again, that
I got the impression
ahead.
they were deliberately vague, weren't they? And people just filled in the gaps in really elaborate and impossible to satisfy ways.
in some cases, yes. Now, I will say, I think the game is it's a little shallow for
Sure.
what I expected. And I think that's, if I didn't follow the development closely, and if I walk away thinking it's a little shallow, there's probably some people that think it's really shallow
Right.
or really put off
Right.
by it. So
Okay.
I
Okay.
think there's some form. But again, I think it does apply that if you could find ways that the procedural generation of worlds plays really well into a Star Wars game, of finding ways that instead of spending months and months and months developing this content, if you can find a way to develop the generation of content within it, it speeds that development time down, and we can actually get gameplay that's non-cinematic, that is interesting and varied, and not just being forced down a hallway that you can't get past things in order to fight 3 more Sky Troopers. I think finding ways to integrate that stuff in is a lot of what I'm walking away from my other experiences, reaching out, playing other games. It's an interesting way to look back at how other companies are working within the space right now.
They have very much embraced the whole cinematic thing, though, as Ben Irving said in that interview with Bad Feeling Podcast, they realize they can't do that all. They actually do have to think about gameplay again, which is great.
I think that's the one thing that struck me about that is when they talked about, well, two things really. One was the quote-unquote return to Bioware storytelling that I still question a little bit going, I don't feel that Kotvi feels anything like the vanilla SWTOR. The storytelling in the original game does not feel anything like Kotvi.
KOTOR.
Yeah, and especially when you look back at Baldur's Gate and KOTOR, kind of the roots of BioWare, it does not feel anything like Kotvi. It seems like they've redefined what BioWare is, and they're going with this new niche that's, I'm watching an interactive movie of sorts.
Yeah, the style of game which, well, I've never really liked because it's boring and non-interactive. You're just being presented with a movie. But we talked about that ad nauseum. So.
Yeah. It's the other thing that really got me was when they talked about how they want it to be accessible. And that's why they've made a lot of the decisions to simplify the game to appeal to somebody who just wants to go through the motions and click one button. And this ties back to what I kind of feel like this, if I'm reading between the lines of what Sean Murray is saying with No Man's Sky, I think Sony made some of the similar decisions in that game where when they were developing it, it was a lot more in depth. And Sony came back and said, no, we want it to be more accessible. And to me, the thing that stuck me about Ben Irving was saying the goal of every game designer is to have everybody play the game, which I agree. I think that is the goal. But if I'm sitting down to design, whether it's to write a movie or make a movie, film a movie, or write a book or design a video game, I want everybody to experience it because it's the best of it. It's fun. You can't turn away from it. Not because it's so easy to play that everybody can do it. And I almost think it's kind of that backwards way of looking at it, that if all your goal is to get everybody playing it, well, make it fun. Make it so you can't miss it. Everybody has to do it, not just make it so easy that I can go and click one button at a time.
Yeah. And give us fun stuff that's fun to do in addition to the story.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
all right, go ahead.
Go ahead.
All right, so Daniel, it's been a few weeks since you've been on, and we're going to talk more about your project in the Sarlacc Digest towards the end of the show, but go ahead and let us know what you've been up to, and just give us a little overview if you want.
Yeah, so I've still been playing SWTOR and work, so that's been that's the balance I always have, and then I've been actually going through data analysis and typing up my chapter and just really getting immersed in SWTOR is always on my mind, but in a different way than the last 5 years or so. So last time I was on, it was mid-June, and I was on the podcast with Christina Petrarca, and after that episode, she reached out to me because I had mentioned that my guild lost some people in our ops team, so she has been running with us a couple times a week, so we still get to do ops. So that's been one of the major points in time where I get to play.
Nice.
And I actually just today I got my Republic character to level 65 for DVL, so I popped that level, so I'll get the companion when this all is over. And
wonderful.
And I still feel like there's a way for me to get my PhD and complete the Dark vs. Light event, but when push comes to shove, I clearly have to pick one over the other. So
right. Well, you're already a little bit ahead of me, so well done.
Yeah, I created my 8th character for DVL today. I created a female trooper. I named her PhD with, phonetically,
Right.
just as a little pat on the back to myself,
Sure.
hopefully.
Nice.
So, so that was fun. And I can't wait to share some of the things that I have to talk with you about, just how the community sees itself and how we actually play the game. I think it's really interesting. I don't want to get into that right now because
Okay.
once I get
That's fine.
started, it's going to have a snowball effect, I think.
Absolutely. Can I ask one question about it right now? Because it's just kind of separate from everything else.
Oh, absolutely. Go ahead.
For the people who did do the Myers-Briggs test, will you be able to get their result to them?
Sure, I'll answer that question for you. I don't know. I would love to. There's just a couple barriers. First off, the Myers-Briggs is a licensed intellectual property to CPP, which is Consulting Psychological Press, and I have an agreement with them. I'm a licensed counselor, so I have the right to provide participants their results, so that's
Okay.
really cool. But Barry University is kind of like my boss in this arrangement, and so if they say that I can't,
I see.
then I can't. I am going to bring that up during my final defense of my study. So
Okay.
once I am done, I will know a definite answer. It's just, it's so hard to tell what my professors and the IRB are going to think about that.
Huh. Okay. Interesting.
Because
All
one of the
right.
issues is I did not meet with anybody face to face, so I don't know these 500 or so people.
Okay.
So,
Makes sense. All right.
yeah.
Let's see. And was there anything else in your week then?
No, I'm hoping to have an effective night on Ravagers tonight, hard mode.
Oh,
so,
good luck.
Yeah, we'll
Nice.
see how that goes.
All right then. Tio, how about your week?
Oh, just Bill. Was there anything else you wanted to add? This time.
Well, I did say I'm back on the show because I wouldn't come on the show and complain if I'm not playing. So I guess I would point out I am subbed. I have completed all of Kotfi.
Excellent.
I've done it all. I finished it.
Including
and
the
the-
Eternal Championship, apparently.
Yeah, I one-shot it.
Nice.
I died once on boss 7 because my companion wouldn't
Right.
follow my orders.
Yep.
But
You know, that happened to me last night too. My companion just stood in the fire, and the Rancor just flattened me because there were no heals. It was
Right.
terrible.
Yeah.
yeah, but otherwise, I finished. I'm the eternal level of the DVE as well.
Very
I
nice.
finished that like 3
Wow.
weeks ago.
Congratulations.
I've really decided when I started, I'm like, well, this legendary thing won't be that bad. And I've got 4 characters leveled up. And it does go back to, so I died once in the Eternal Championship. That was the first time that character died,
Whatever.
ever.
Right.
I've leveled 4 characters since DVE started, and I've died a total of 3 times. Once in
Yeah.
that, and twice due to elevators.
Yep. Yeah, they are dangerous.
Yes, and well, this just goes to show what Ben Irving said. They made a deliberate decision to dumb it down. Did I say dumb it down? To make it easier for players.
Right.
And so they want people to be able to jump in and not be frustrated, because that wouldn't be fair. Then I guess they
They need to
succeeded.
fix the elevators. It sucks dying in
Except
a
for-
workplace accident. I mean, it's
Yeah. You
It's
know,
just dumb.
I was talking with my wife about this yesterday, and it's sort of like level 60 is the new level 1, except we have these characters and we think of them like they're level 60, so we get angry because the game is so easy. But I found that, when you're in Kotfi, if you think of yourself like you're level 5 instead of 65, then the game makes a whole lot more sense. I don't know if Bioware intends for a portion of the player base to think that way. Like, oh, we only leveled up to level 5 and we're doing this story, but
Right.
we're not 65 characters when we're in Kotfi any
Sure.
more than we're level 50 people when we're on Corellia anymore.
Well, they did expect a lot of people to start the game at 60, so
Yeah.
yeah, maybe.
There's even a tutorial there. You can do the Darth Mar part with 3 moves on your bar.
Wow. Yes, a tutorial. Yeah, that's terrible. Terrible. All right. Now, my week, I did log in a time or two, and thank you to Pyrochenko for the Gemini pack. Much appreciated.
Yes.
Not really much to report at this stage, though I did want to mention that last week I had some camera issues to do with my Logitech C920 webcam, which I have found out is one of those, apparently, a go-to classic cam for 1080p video. So it's very popular. And it wasn't just me. Apparently Microsoft broke millions of people's webcams with the anniversary update. Yeah, so anyway, that was... Oops. How can this happen? I don't know, but it did. There is a workaround, because obviously I've got the camera working again. It's a simple registry setting. I'll link to it, just in case anyone else is having this problem. You haven't found the fix yet, though if you Google it now, it's everywhere. And Microsoft will hopefully address this sometime soon. But yeah, they buggered it up badly. Anyway,
Right.
but I'm glad it's working again, and thank you to both Todd Cyber and Farsia, who both sent me links to the solution. Thanks, guys. So clearly, it worked. Anyway, aside from my usual lots of travel and study and work and, yes, which is just life, nothing else to report. So over to you, Chill.
All right. First, a shout out to the chat room. Aardvark Tongue is here. Let's see. Awikos. I don't know how you pronounce that. Sorry. Count Luku, Death Road, Dekian, Dre Karen, Kahana, Jagged Fell, Nick Smith 4, Kuze is here, Sorta Revan, Vasma Gaming. Hello, everyone. All right. Darks versus Lightside was pretty much my week. I got Chill Satan done with his class stories and enjoyed that all the way through. And now I'm working on Flashpoints. So I figure I'll do the Flashpoints, get both Satan and Santa up to Rishi/Kotfi and figure out, exactly how to do all the rest of it from there. And yeah, that'll pretty much, once I have those done, then that's pretty much all the important things that I need to do to take care of the getting me to that level where you can have the companion, which is what I'm going for. So yeah, so pretty easy week. Not quite as many sessions in this week as last week, but decent amount. And I guess I'm just going to be, probably for the next week or maybe even 2, just be doing a lot of Flashpoints. So
that's interesting, because that's when I went through the doing all the Flashpoints, and I'm curious to see if, now I'm probably poisoning the well a little bit. If you think about this, it came to me as I was going through all of these that this was the original episodic content that Bioware created. That they made episodic content, like 3 Flashpoints tied together. It's a overarching storyline 3 at a time, and then the next 3 kind of tie into that and pick up the story and move the ball along. But
As in the whole Revan thing.
right, and with Rishi and that expansion, it was even part of the entire story as you leveled.
Right. You actually had to do it. Yeah.
Right. And so it did come to me. It was a little bit of a awakening as I had to go back and play some of these. That this is something they've done before. But I feel like as characters, as players, we sat down and went, okay, Flashpoints, there's a group of 4. Great, we've got it. And we don't want to do all the trash. So we found these creative ways to skip the trash. And we had bosses, and they were really not just, I take off 25% and the boss disappears and calls in 3 ads, and then I kill the 3 ads and the boss comes back and repeat as it is in every chapter of copy. But it's like they took the Flashpoints and they took everything that the players did to get around the work that they did and said, you're not going to get around it this time. We're going to put you in a hallway that's 2 meters wide, and you can't even see the ads until you step on this invisible thing that they're going to fly in.
Yeah.
So
They're going to spawn no matter what.
Right, and even if you're on a stealth character, they see you and attack you.
Yeah.
Exactly. So it's everything that the players have said, we like the content, but we don't like all of this other stuff that's along with it. They forced us to do the other stuff.
So they actually gave us 16 flashpoints this year.
Correct. They're all solo flashpoints.
They should make a team version of them where they can scale up the difficulty and introduce new mechanics.
Yeah.
I think I said that last time I was on too. I said, Chapter 16 should be in operation.
Well, when you look at those bosses, they very well could be, because there are some pretty cool mechanics in there.
Yeah, and they could even beef up those mechanics if they think about it for 5 seconds. So.
It got better as the chapters went on. There's no doubt. You can see the learning that they went through. They have absolutely gotten better as far as the game mechanics go. There's no doubt about it. So I have a small sliver of hope for the future. Maybe that's what Kotet brings. Maybe they've understood that, and that this is no different than a Flashpoint. We can do it solo, or we can do it in a foursome going forward.
Right.
I really hope that they give us fewer chapters. I think it's pretty clear that they were trying to overcome the subscription problem, which is you have, hundreds of thousands of players that subscribe when it's new.
Right.
And then 20,000 of those stay 3 months later. So they're like, how do we keep them? And so they sacrifice their timetable by putting themselves in a monthly box. And it's worked out, I think. I mean, that's what they're kind of indicating. So,
they were indicating. Actually, Ben Irving did make a bit of a slip up. Well, in the interview, he said it was wildly successful at launch. And the last earnings report was indicating, nothing at all.
The 9 chapters sort of became that expansion launch, and people decided, I can wait. Because they get, you subscribe once and you get the other 7 chapters. I'm not saying BioWare that you should take that away, because that would be terrible, because I know you're listening. But I'm just saying that they were trying to overcome one problem, and they created a historically new problem for MMOs to have by doing it episodically. And they took away their timetable to work on all the other things that made the other expansions interesting to all types of players.
It does mean they basically have to continually work on this, which means they can't really do anything else. It's just the nature of the beast. If it was just a contained expansion with worlds that they built, they just schedule that work, get it done, release it. But as you say, they needed to do something to keep people subbed. And, I guess we'll see.
Well, if you think back to Shadow of Revan 2, it had Zyos several months later. So, and then somewhere after Hut Cartel there was Oricon, and so they've had a model where they give us the big thing, which buys them enough time to finish off the smaller thing that is sort of part of it and not really.
Right.
So, maybe after Kotet they can look at all the data they've collected from the different ways they've tried things and find a middle ground.
Now, Sir Salisbury in chat says monthly release had nothing to do with that, as the chapters were finished well ahead of time. Now, that's not strictly speaking true, in that I'm sure the voice work was done ahead of time, and probably the guts of the writing. But the actual mechanics of what was in each chapter, as in the actual environments would probably had to be polished, the scripting had to be done, and just making the mechanics work. That I think they really are doing month to month. I don't think they did all that months and months ago, and they've just been sitting on their hands for the last year, basically. So,
definitely the design was done ahead, and I know because they did divide up the chapter assignments, so each chapter was done by different designers.
Right.
Each one had a different lead, so they knew going in which one was responsible for which chapters, and all that design, the story was broke, it was all designed out, all the writing was done, but all of the rendering, for all the cinematics, all the actual scripting, that was being done more as time went on.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Well, that'll get us on to the tip of the week. We have one tip this week, and I'm actually going to throw this to our guest Daniel because your wife Eluge has kindly sent one in.
Yeah. So we were running an operation the other night, and her achievement for getting HK51 to kill people popped while we were in explosive conflict. So we thought, is this a thing? So if you have a companion where you're grinding for kills, and you have raid night or flashpoint night or something with your guild, or just group finder, keep them out, and then hopefully those kills that you're doing during the group content will count towards that companion, and you'll get the you'll get the achievement without having to actually grind for it and take your time away from things you actually want to be doing.
Yep. Yeah, the only tricky part is you got to remember before you go in to the flash, the operation or the flashpoint to have it highlighted and out and ready to go, because whatever one is active is going to be the one that gets the credit. All right. Well, by non-random allotment, the winner is Eluge. So congratulations, you're the winner of a Tonfon or M83R droid pet code, courtesy of Bioware, and a new OotiniCast provided cartel market pack from the latest shipment. And if you'd like a chance to win the same, please send your tips to OotiniCast@gmail.com by next Wednesday. And that will bring us to the Holo feed, Tio.
Well, not really a lot happening. So let's just cover what is. Firstly, let's just touch on the Dark versus Light event, the DVL event, and just look at that needle, which is hovering between light and dark. Actually, it's definitely leaning in the light direction. 52.31% light, 47.69% dark. So I suspect we're going to end up with the light side companion. That's our Heisenberg companion. That at the moment is just those two possibilities are both out there at the moment, and we're just waiting for that probability wave to collapse and deliver, it would appear, the light side companion to us. So anyway, again, we don't know when DVL event will end, but sometime December is a really good bet, I would say. So you've still got a fair amount of time, we think, but I guess don't.
Yeah.
I haven't even achieved the first level yet. That's how terrible I am.
Wow.
Yeah, I just... No time. But anyway,
Yeah.
I would like to get somewhere. Now, they did do some back-end maintenance during the regular scheduled maintenance on Tuesday morning, just the 4 hours. Oh, sorry. They didn't actually say what they were doing besides maintaining their back-end. So,
A lot of that going on.
indeed. Indeed. So, now, a few other things. Game update 4.7.1. Now, we know that is coming on Wednesday, the 7th of September. Why it's a Wednesday and not a Tuesday, who knows? But that's when it's coming. And that will, of course, include the HK55 chapter, where you play as HK55.
Nice.
And yeah, the Shroud of Memory, the trailer for that they included at the end of the August producer live stream is on YouTube now, so you can actually just watch the whole thing directly. It's kind of cool, and from what they've said, it's going to be a lot of fun. So Shroud of Memory coming in 4.7.1. They're going to fix a few other things there, including an issue where the Ancient Threat, the world boss, is actually permanently spawned on Yavin 4. And blocks access to the altar, which you need to complete the Talos Strelic, the Agent Companion's Alliance alert, to actually recruit him to the Alliance.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's a bit unfortunate. But the mob is just permanently there. So unless you want to kill it with a group, yeah, you're kind of screwed. And he's not easy, from all reports. So anyway, that will be fixed in 4.7.1. Now, also, just to mention that we talked about the Depths of Manan achievement. People were complaining that they fixed it, so you could actually now finish it without going to extraordinary lengths to get the killing blow on the final boss in the Depths of Manan. And when people did, the achievement they got was missing details data, or at least that's what it showed up as. That is purely a textual error. You have actually got the achievement. It's just not displaying properly in the UI, and that will also be fixed in 4.7.1. So
Okay.
you will not miss out if you actually do it. It's just how it looks in your achievement display. Now, something terrible appeared to happen to the SWTOR forums in that yesterday they just announced with no notice that they were taking the forums down, and only the forums, for more back-end maintenance. And they're actually back now. They were down for about 20 hours. Now, it occurred to me, since I just got this email from Funcom, the guys who do the Secret World and various other games, that their forums had been hacked. And all of their usernames and passwords had been stolen, etc. And that was because they used a forum system of software called vBulletin 4. And it turns out they've just discovered there's a SQL injection attack which can, well, let people write in and steal everything. So yes,
Whoa.
that has been patched by vBulletin, and I just happen to know that SWTOR also uses vBulletin. So what I suspect happened was once this vulnerability was discovered, they did a little preemptive maintenance and just took the thing down before anyone could hack it. Now,
Right.
as far as we know, no one has actually hacked it. They were quick enough to get it done, and obviously it has been patched. This patch
Good.
was available back in June, so companies are a little slow to patch these things sometimes. But anyway, now they've had a bit of incentive to get it up to date. So anyway, back online, and so we should be fine.
Cool.
And if we get a little email in the next few weeks saying you really should change your password, well, I guess they weren't quick enough. So anyway, there is a site you can actually go to see whether your email address has been hacked out of one of the various places over time. And yeah, it turned out mine had from various places.
But
oh well.
no passwords, though?
Uh,
Or just the password for that forum?
It depends how much they got and how the hack happened. In this particular case, they did actually get the hashed passwords, which are sadly very easy to crack. So, yes, if you're having a Funcom account, you probably should change the password on that. And I guess, now, correlation is not causation, as we were discussing with Daniel earlier, but the Bioware forums, as we talked about previously, every one of them, except for SWTOR's, is being shut down, well, today. Or actually, for you guys, it's probably tomorrow. Tomorrow, August 26th. And this thing with the SWTOR forums, we assume has nothing to do with it and has everything to do with the vBulletin vulnerability. But I
Right.
don't know for sure because they're not going to tell us. But anyway, yes, as of tomorrow, Bioware forums are gone. Gone. Except for SWTOR's. Alright, now a bit of stuff from the SWTOR Twitter account. They posted out a couple of bits of concept art. One of the Zakulan landscape, a kind of pastel-y sketch. It's actually kind of cool. And a really good shot of the concept art for the gravestone, our personal starship.
That is nice.
Yeah, that's really nice. I'll link to both of those, include them in the show post as well. And finally, in the news, and yeah, I did say there wasn't very much, we have a bit of stuff about Kotet. Well, it's music. And due to one of those probable failures in configuration management, at least we assume it is, the music files were included in the latest patch to SWTOR. And Jedipedia has done a little surreptitious white hat data mining and pulled it out so you can actually download it and listen to it. Now, normally we wouldn't talk about data mining, but the lead composer, a gentleman by the name of Jessie Harlan, actually responded in the Reddit thread in which this was discussed. So let's just talk about what's there. Firstly, it's all pretty much virtual instruments, MIDI music for Kotet so far. But it does have some nice new tracks, but there's a lot of action themes that don't really stand out. And if you listen to it, there's a lot of action background music, and as we know about with game music, a lot of it just is kind of repetitive and similar, but that's just what it's for. But there is some new stuff in that. It does build on the themes established in Kotlin. Obviously, as you would imagine, that's what they would do, but they have put some new themes. And there was one apparently that was labeled that was also included in the 5-year SWTOR video. Anyway, Jessie Harlan, who's the lead composer responsible for it, he said, "Perhaps I can help to give some context on this for you all. This happened last time with Kotfi, and now it's happened again with Kotet. Just so that everyone knows, these are the rough demos that eventually turn into the final tracks. We headed to Nashville and recorded for 2 days with a 70-piece orchestra and a choir. Every
Nice.
single piece was recorded live. These live mixes will replace the MIDI-oriented ones that are currently in these files. So firstly, this is a reason not to data mine, because you may be disappointed in a completely unnecessary way.
Right.
Because this will be replaced with live music, which is really cool. So anyway, the tweet was from Jessie Harlan, who works for Dunder Pate Music, which is actually his own personal company. Now, Jessie has 17 years experience writing, producing, and delivering world-class soundtracks. And the about on his page is actually on his site is actually kind of cool. He says, "I'm a composer, but more specifically than that, I'm a game composer. For 15 years, I've written interactive music for heroes and villains." He needs to update his site. This was obviously written a couple of years ago. Anyway, he's written pieces that have been played by the London Philharmonic Orchestra at Abbey Road Studio 1, and etc., etc. He's heard his music blasted among the crowds of New York Times Square. So anyway, he's a real deal, and actually quite a popular or well-known game music designer, composer. Now, he actually is working with another guy by the name of Gordy Harb. Now, Gordy is a multi-award winning film, video game, and television composer who's written music for many well-known titles, including most recently Activision's The Walking Dead Survival Instinct, but he has also been one of the composers for Star Wars The Old Republic, for which he was awarded Best Original Soundtrack and Best Instrumental Music at the 10th Annual GANG Gang Awards, which I have never heard of, but I assume that's really good for people who compose music. So awesome. So yeah, they brought in the big guns, it would appear, for Kotet's music, and using a live orchestra. Now, we had Yvalon respond to this, because obviously, as a composer himself, he's all over this stuff. And he said, "Thanks for the heads up, guys. Looks like they are doing a full-on orchestra this time. The music for Kotfi was definitely MIDI orchestra and lots of reuse. So this is exciting. And also, I hope they will use their new music in repeatable instances and not keep using classic Star Wars," which is the same from the original game.
That's cool.
That's really awesome.
Yeah. Once the real deal's here, I hope we can get him back on.
Yeah, I'm hoping that Yvalon will be back on at some point to actually talk through it, especially once we actually hear the music properly from the orchestra sometime in the future. Now, also worth noting that Jessie Harlan, did actually work as a composer and music supervisor for LucasArts from 2003 through to 2013.
Nice.
So yes, yeah, these guys, as I said, and are the real deal. And he did music for 1313, which never saw the light of day, SWTOR as well, The Force Unleashed, Republic Commando, Battlefront 2, and Star Wars Lego 2. So,
And Yvonne's in the chat room now. Yeah, Yvonne's in the chat room now. He's saying that Gordy Hobb is well known for doing Star Wars games and really good at doing John Williams sound-alikes. Excellent.
Really? Yeah.
That is exciting.
Awesome. So yes, that is really good news for Knights of the Eternal Throne. Now, let's just look at the time, and I think I'll skip all that and do that next week.
Okay.
And that's the news.
Oh, let me see where I need to get.
Right
Where
down
are
to the
we?
Academy.
Okay. That will bring us to the Academy, and this week, Soterista continues her coverage of guilds, including how to organize social events, planetary conquests, crafting, and the guild flagship. Thank you, Soterista. And that will bring us to the Force Feedback, where we read out your tweets and emails. And Soterista herself wrote in. She writes, "Really enjoyed OotiniCast's breakdown of Ben Irving's interview about the future of SWTOR." Well, thank you very much.
Arista. Oops. You may be wondering what happened to Swotorista, as in she was appearing fairly regularly on the show, and basically she got a job. And she's really happy with it, but it does mean the timing, she can't join us to record. But as you've obviously heard over the last few episodes, she has been doing the Academy for us, and we are extremely grateful for that. So may as well, I'd just like to take the opportunity to thank her for her contributions to the show and her ongoing contribution to the Academy, both recording it for us and doing the videos which she posts on her YouTube channel. So thank you very much, Sweater.
That's excellent. Yeah, and congratulations, too. All right, Christina Petrarca said, I've been playing with Prisma 2, my new desktop background, and it has a bunch of SWTOR characters, and then put through various, well, maybe not various, maybe the same Prisma prisms, so to speak. Yeah. Also, if you go to the settings, you can take off the Prisma watermark, which is nice. And I knew about that, but at least when I was kind of just messing around with it, I like to leave it on just so that people would know that, hey, this is a thing out there. But
Christina is, of course, our favourite voice actor, well, aside from Darren DePaul. And so we do hope to get her back on at some point in the future.
Yeah, she's fun. And she has a lot of really nice pictures within that little background that she did.
Which will be included in the show notes.
Yes. All right. Patrick Johnson writes, the bit about companion grouping for solo raids is literally the Star Trek Online bridge crew system. No companion stories, though.
Yeah, Star Trek Online really never got that right as far as the ground mission. Apparently the space game is quite good. I never did play it, but you have a small army of your bridge crew, which you take down to the planets, and just like the Star Trek episode, as you would expect. Right. But yeah, the mechanics were a bit...
Okay. And let's see, Cal wrote, well, I got to Eternal in the Dark vs. Light event. Not sure if I can be bothered doing Legendary. # so much work. And nice, he captured a screenshot with the completion coming up on the screen. Very nice.
So, Eternal is the tier 5, second to last, the penultimate tier, where Legendary is the crazy one.
Yeah, Eternal is the one I want because that's the companion.
Yes.
So. Johnny, he who was born to eat bacon, writes, name my first system after Bad Feeling Podcast and planets after members. Next 2 systems will be for AIE and OotiniCast. # No Man's Sky.
Nice.
So another No Man's Sky player, Bill.
Yeah, I saw Max has just finished No Man's Sky. Can you actually win it, Bill? Or is it that open-ended? Okay.
So, I rail about story. And how I will say this, a lot of the other games I played while I was gone are story driven, and I loved it. I love story. I live for it. That's why we play.
Right.
No Man's Sky does not have enough story. It's nothing. It's open.
I never thought I'd hear you say that something would not have enough story. Wow.
It's not even close to having enough.
Wow. Okay. All
right. Let's see. FYI, following that message from SWTOR support, they did fix the Bounty Hunter class issue with the last patch.
Wow. So even though he'd been sent that message from support saying it was kind of hard because of all those script triggers, they fixed it anyway.
Nice.
That's a happy ending.
Mara Jade, not the Mara Jade, at least we don't think so, wrote, listen to OotiniCast and Bad Feeling Podcast coverage of the interview with Ben Irving. Had some thoughts for Bioware. For those who want harder versus story content, a bonus boss that is more HMFP level, our hard mode Flashpoint level. Not required to finish, but harder content. So in other words, optional. Sounds good. Please get rid of waves of mobs. It's not harder, it's just annoying to clear a room, run ahead, and then have to go back because of a lag in the spawn. Yeah.
Yeah, basically.
Right. Forcing people to PvP for an event, it's better to do that with low levels where learning is supposed to happen instead of at max level.
And if you're doing the DVL event, I'd highly recommend you do the PvP stuff at an early level.
At a pretty early level.
It's also that massive boost in experience if you do the starting missions.
Yeah, it's crazy high. And it would be okay for a choice payoff in the story to be later if there was a log that explained what choices led to the outcomes. Which I think at least with Koth there was one of those. You could kind of see like what he agreed with and what he didn't.
Do you really need to go and actually have an analysis of your previous experiences to actually work out why the hell something did something else? I don't know. That just seems a little artificial to me. It should be, if you're just following a narrative like you're reading a book. It's like having an appendix to actually explain why X did Y or whatever.
Right.
So I understand it, but
yeah, I have a bunch of characters though that I've done, some of the chapters, but not all, and I'm sure I don't remember which ones have taken which choices at this point.
Sure.
All right. Targ wrote in, I'm going to be transferring 2 toons over to the Harbinger, and here's the question. One's level 35 and is my first DVL toon, Dark vs. Light toon. Should I wait till after 50, or does it matter if I transfer it now? Are there any reasons to wait to transfer is what I'm getting at. Also, is there any advice on transferring in general? Any advice would be appreciated, as I've never done it before. Any lessons learned or things to make sure that I do?
For the most part, you're okay, but if there's any achievements that are partial, as in you haven't completed them yet, I don't know as far as whether they would carry across. So ideally, if you nearly finished anything, I would definitely finish it off and just get that achievement so it's locked into your legacy. So when you transfer, all your achievements do definitely move across and will be merged into whatever legacy is on the target server. But stuff in progress, not so sure about. I'd be a little concerned about that. You might be okay, but you might not either. Can't say definitively.
All right. Any other things that he would definitely need to do? I guess if you're going to a server that doesn't have any, where you don't have any characters, then you might consider putting a bunch of expensive items or credits on that character for transfer, so that you're not just stranded with no cash.
Yeah, the contents of your legacy hold do not carry with you, which is
Correct.
Worth noting.
Yep.
Though your personal cargo base do. Anything in your mail won't go across, though you get warned about that when you do the character transfer.
Yeah.
Take some credits with you.
Yeah. Definitely.
You do. So for one of my characters in DVL, I did start on a brand new server. This is my 3rd server for keeping track. I've already hit legacy level 50 on 2 servers. So I wanted to start a 3rd where I was basically a brand new player starting out.
Right.
And I
With
did
nothing.
that way.
Yeah.
With nothing.
Yeah.
And I still didn't die. But it was hard not having anything, any credits.
Right.
It was
the presents and everything else. Yeah.
Yeah. For me, it was all I wanted to do was upgrade my gear, and I had no way to do it. It was a struggle.
Awesome. All right, that'll bring us to the Sarlacc Digest, where we go over the issues for 1,000 years, or until we run out of time. And, of course, we're going to be going over the big psychological study that's been done. So why don't you go ahead and start us off, Daniel?
All right. Well, first off, I think it's worth saying that the community is why I was able to come on again just 2 months later. There is no way that during the 5 years since I started my doc program that I could have even imagined what happened in the month of July. Just so many people on Twitter really championed my cause. There's no way I can remember all of you, but if you talked to me during that month and you gave me an idea and I did it, I guarantee that idea worked in some capacity. It's one of those things where you realize you're doing a quantitative study, which means you need lots of people to give you just categorical data.
Right.
And some of the other studies from my school had 100 people. I hit 100 people by the end of the first weekend, Because of OotiniCast and some of the people who also tweeted after I would tweet something. And so then I kept going, and I was thinking, okay, well, I can get to, because with only 100 people there'd be an error potential of 10%, which is
Yeah.
not great.
Nope.
Because there are over 100,000 people that have played SWTOR. So when you have a population bigger than that, you need lots of people. So I kept
Right.
going, and then we got to the point, even with nearly 200 people that did not do the Myers-Briggs, which I still appreciate you guys so much, because I can't use your data, but it showed that you, at one point in time, were trying to help, and maybe my instructions weren't clear enough or something. It wasn't ideal, but 500 people had data that I can use.
Nice.
So that means there's only a 5% margin of error. So thank you to the community, everyone on Twitter, everyone who made YouTube videos asking people just to take 20 minutes out of their life to do it. People who told me you should do memes or pictures. People like pictures. That made a huge difference. So, just the countdown where it's like you have 1 day to complete this meat bags, and it was HK 51. I had so much fun making that one.
Nice.
So, what I've found is that we actually have a perspective of what this game is that is locked into our own ego. So, and I feel like, Chill and Tio, you guys have talked about this before, but I have percentages to back up what you were saying, is that, if you're an operations player, then you're going to feel really ignored right now. And
Okay.
if you are a story player, which, by the way, even operations players, we all love story. I guess everybody loves story. Nobody likes Galactic Starfighter, but the people who like operations are not the same group as, like, story is generalized. So no matter what
Right.
it is you play this game for, you probably ranked story very high. So I'm not going to screen share or anything, because that, time. But in terms of the people that rated, there was a question, if you recall, where I said, here's 10 things we do in the game, rank them from 1 to 10.
Yes.
That was my favorite question that I created in the whole thing. The Myers-Briggs, I let you guys take that. I didn't create that. I have no warm fuzzies about those questions. But this one, I was just so excited to see what would happen. And I'm scrolling through all my tables. I apologize. All right, so here we go. Remember, a low number means that people like it more. So
Okay.
the average score for story was 3.68. So that means
That's pretty good.
you take all the people that said it's my least favorite thing, it's a 10, or I kind of like it but not that much, so it's a 7. All those people are in there too, and the power of the people that said story is my number one favorite thing pulled that average over to 3.68. And then the
Was that the
standard,
lowest out of all 10?
yes, by far.
Okay.
The standard deviation for that is also 3.1. So if you go one, now this is kind of statistical here, but if you just go one set of people over from the average, then you're getting to the point where a near zero value of that mean likes story. So that means about 80% of the people that like the game really like story,
Okay.
basically. And then we go over to the next most favorite thing, and the average for that is a 5.36. Do you guys want to guess
Interesting.
which activity that is? Anybody?
Leveling?
No, operations.
Operations.
Oh.
Okay. Good.
Yeah, so operations was the number 2 thing, but it is not very far. Actually, oh, I lied. Sorry. Flashpoints is actually a bit better than operations, which makes sense. It's more accessible.
Sure.
So,
But what
but
percentage of the population are we talking about there?
well, That is a good question. So the percent of the people that say for Flashpoints, if you take just the top three, 27-ish% say gave Flashpoints a 1, 2, or 3.
Okay.
However, let me do the math really quick. 60% gave story a 1, 2, or 3. Okay.
Was there any effort to sort of pick out the sort of self-selection aspect of this, since these are mostly going to be people who listen to podcasts, therefore are more like adult, more serious about the game, and so on?
Well, if you're in that 500 or so people, you are an adult. I had to take out all data for people that indicated that they were under the age of 18.
Okay.
And that is, it's student research.
It's an ethical thing. Yeah.
Yes. So everyone is at least 18. The average age, I have that here. There's just so many tables. So 30% were in the range of 18 to 25, and 33 were in the range of 26 to 35.
Okay.
I actually had a range that went all the way up to the 60s.
Right.
Yeah.
So.
I was going to say that's still almost a third that's over 35. So, I mean, not quite, but
So in terms
a good
of
chunk.
Self-selection here and effectively confirmation bias, sort of,
Well,
these are
yes.
people who you would expect to be more into the operations and the flashpoints, and yet your results are still saying that everyone loves the story parts.
Yes, I was shocked when I saw that the first night where I was just going through the very preliminary pie charts and things. The other thing is I did have a couple tweets and a couple efforts to try to get role players in. I used the hashtag Star Wars RP. I tried to do that a couple times a week just to try and get them. I think PvP was underrepresented in my sample.
Okay.
Maybe that says something about what kind of personality of people are willing to take long surveys online, and that doesn't line up with the people who shame you for being terrible at PvP. I don't know, but
Right.
so then after you have kind of that, just some fun factoids. Most of the people in my sample started playing in 2011.
Okay.
73% were male, 24% were female, 44% their main that they chose to answer all the questions about are Republic, 55 is the Sith Empire. I had a conversation with Sakari maybe a month ago before he recorded in July. He asked me, is there anything interesting that you can give me for the podcast? And I said, yeah, dark versus light, the whole, which side's going to win, which companion are we going to get? I told him there is no drama there. Light side wins, hands down. and I didn't want to go too deep into it because
Right.
The study was still active. I could have gotten, if the PvP people wanted something to do, they could have just bombarded me with dark side centric answers to show me where my place is in life. But they didn't do that. So what I was going with there is the majority of people make light side choices. I rated that on a Likert scale, which means that the values go from 1 to 5, and it's like very, very dark, somewhat neutral, somewhat light, very light. And most of the people answered very light and somewhat light. But then I asked the Bartle player type question next, which is on moral alignment. And this comes from just the role-playing games, MUDs and things like that. So we have lawful good, neutral good, chaotic, and then lawful, evil, things like that. And when you pair the moral alignment of our player base with what kinds of choices they make that Bioware gives us, light side or dark, it is so staggering. Like, the people who make dark side choices still love organization of the law. So lawful evil was 11%, neutral evil was 5%, and chaotic was 7.8%. There's just not enough chaotic evil people for the dark side choices in the Bioware kind of question to win this little competition, because the people who make dark side choices still have the potential to think like a good person when they're making bad choices. That is my analysis there. So
Right.
so if you take that 11, 5, and 7 for the evil people, that totals really quick 23%, something like that.
Right.
If you take the lawful good, neutral good, and chaotic good, that's 19, 17, and 13. So that's almost somewhere in the 40 to 45% range. So there's just more people that want to be good in this game. And every time they've given us a new graphic on the website, Lightside has gotten a little bit stronger. So my stay's over, so you don't have to go log in and dark side away, community that's listening. I felt like I felt very confident once I saw my data coming in that we're going to get the Chiss companion.
Right.
So I don't know, you guys, what kinds of things are you curious about? That might be a good way to spend a few minutes. And
Well, have you been able to do any lining up of the data with the Myers-Briggs information yet?
yes, I have some descriptive data for that. I also have the descriptive data for how people play the MMOs. So that was the 39 questions that was still
Okay.
on SurveyMonkey. So it was sort of, do you talk with your teammates about real life? Do you help people when you see that they're in distress?
Right.
Knowing everything about how to defeat bosses is important to me. Things like that. And that's actually that's the purpose of the study, is to compare those questions, those 10 categories of playing, with the 16 types and just the 2x8. So not just INTJs or ISTJs, but introversion and extroversion, and then
Right.
thinking and feeling.
Okay.
So
Are introverts
Yeah.
overrepresented?
yes, absolutely. It's 400 to 100. It is
No
not.
surprise.
It is not. And also, there is a measure in the Myers-Briggs that's called PCI. It's preference. I typed several pages about this today. It's an index, okay? Preference clarity index. And the people who are introverted are much more introverted. So they're on the deep end of the introversion spectrum, not close to 0.
Right.
So the way
Okay.
this index works is there's a 0 in the middle, and let's say there's a negative 30 and there's a positive 30. So the introversion average is somewhere like 18 out of 30. And the average for the for the extroversion is somewhere under 10, let's say. I'm not
Right.
looking at the chart. There's so many charts. I'm trying to find it for you guys. But it's just the extroverted people can much more easily switch to being introverted at any given time than the introverted people can switch to being extroverted,
Okay.
Right.
if that makes sense.
Now, is the Myers-Briggs designed to actually, like, if you gave the test to the whole population, is it designed so that on average the average person would in fact be a 0? I mean, is it designed to sort of average itself out that way? In other
No.
words, can you say that this subsample is definitely different than the population of the United States or the world?
Right. So this is one of the things for people who are critics of the MBTI. They probably have a little bit to yell about, is there's no way to get a 0 on your clarity index. You're going to answer a question either with a 1 or a 0.
Right.
And so zeros are going to push your score towards the negative 30, and ones are going to push it towards the positive 30.
Mm-hmm.
So as long as you answered all the questions, you're going to end up with a clarity of at least 1, which means slight. Now that
Right. But the population as a whole could still be a 0, correct? Theoretically.
Well, it could, but not with this kind of data flying all over the place, because
Right.
what will happen is you're going to have people that are very strong into their category. So you would have to have an equal number of very strong extroversion
Right.
preferred
Well,
people.
Is it in other words, what I'm kind of getting at is it designed to sort of make it so that the population more or less, actually shows that. In other words, like
IQ, in other words, where
if we
100
gave
is always average, always.
Yeah, if we gave the test to everyone, would it actually show a bias towards extroversion or introversion, or would it overall just be scattered across with no telltale direction?
Right. Okay. So if the entire population took this,
Mm-hmm.
given that 500 people just did, and there's only a 5% chance of error, that means if we do this study 100 times, 5 times we're going to get data that is substantially different, and the other
Right.
95 times it's going to be very close to the same thing.
In other
At
words, the
least-
Myers-Briggs test is not designed to be kind of neutral as far as a balance. The population is all over the map and not,
Okay.
there
Right,
are
because
pockets in different
it's
parts of it.
categorical, so it's sort of like saying, what would the balance point between male and female be?
Right.
Now that's not exactly the same thing, so
Well,
don't kill
do
me
the-
on Twitter for saying
Okay.
that. But
Let me see if I can get at this one last time to see if I can get my question sort of across correctly. So you obviously, the population that you have is skewing introverted strongly. Are there numbers out there that show what the average person is?
yeah, so the population average.
Yes.
I have not looked at that because I don't.
I
think
saw
to
something
report
that
on
indicated that there were
'Cause
far
I'm-
more
I'm just-
extroverts in the world than introverts. It just is.
I'm just curious if how different this population is in this scale from the population as a whole.
Yeah. Well, let's see. On the Myers-Briggs Foundation website, it says that the extroversion total is 49.3 and the introversion total is 50.7.
Wow,
Interesting.
that is really close to zero.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or neutral
More so
then.
than I'd heard.
Yeah.
Interesting to
so-
see what the distribution was.
But I think when you think about what it takes mentally to participate in this game,
Hmm.
it makes a lot of sense that you would have a different
Yes.
result.
Oh, absolutely.
So the motivation thing that I'm going to compare to the personality, that sort of breaks down what we do in the game to 10
Yeah.
categories. So those are achievement, mechanics, and competitiveness. And those 3 things form the achievement category. And then there's a social category, which is socializing, relationships, and teamwork.
Okay.
Which, by the way, those are very important if you're going to win Flashpoints or Operation. Well, maybe not
Right.
relationships, but, Group Finder does away with the relationship part, but the teamwork and maybe the ability to just use the group chat. And then you have the third category, which is immersion, which actually has 4 parts. It's discovery, which Coffee does not have very much of, and then role-playing, customization, and escape. And I want to touch on, before the show, I was talking about that moment where I just felt like everything BioWare has done makes complete sense. If you had to guess, the two of you, and Bill, please, give me what do you think the highest average for those 10 categories is for my sample? What would you think is the most important element out of those 10 things?
What were the 10 things? I don't remember.
Achievement, mechanics, competitiveness, socializing, relationship, teamwork, discovery, role-playing, customization, and escapism.
I would have said escapism, actually.
I was just going to say escapism, given
That would be
the
my guess as well.
Maybe discovery would be pretty high as well.
Okay. The highest average is customization.
What?
ah,
Yes, apparently we don't
Space
need to beat
Barbies. Oh my god.
we don't need to beat operations. We don't need to work together. We just need a defiant vented lightsaber and
in the color of our choice.
right? And dye modules. We need to have think about what Kotfi did to change our game. They added the the visual module on the weapons. I don't have one.
Weapon
what are they called?
tunings.
Yes, they added
yeah.
weapon tunings. Why would they do that? Because they know. Okay, here's the thing. BioWare already knows everything that I just did,
Yep.
except for the Myers-Briggs part, probably. So, why do you think that we have had such a awesome year if you look at just what the cartel market is doing?
Right, all the
It's-
different changes, the chance cubes coming and going, the upgrade to the opening of the pack,
Right.
all that stuff.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
even the items. I think that they've had
And-
really great items throughout all of
Armor.
Coffee.
Right,
The weapon
and
tunings,
what
of
you're getting,
course.
yeah, and what you're getting at is it's not just about making money. It's also because we love customization. You get that through items.
Absolutely,
and
yep.
packs.
That's the one thing where you don't have to be good at the game. You don't have to talk to anyone. But if that's what you log in to do, you can make your character look good. I
Right.
mean,
All right.
I
What's
always-
behind customization? What's the next one down?
yeah, that's a good question. So, it is actually escapism. No.
Right.
Oh no, it's socializing. Okay,
Oh.
so
Oh,
it's
God.
socializing by just a sliver, and then escapism.
All right. Yeah,
So-
that is surprising, actually.
Yeah, and the other thing that really surprised me, because my score when I have taken this questionnaire is very heavily achievement oriented. And ever since I started playing operations with my guild, I think that I've become more social. So that's something we need to remember too, is this questionnaire was developed for a researcher named Nick Yee to understand World of Warcraft players. So there's a lot of the same kind of workings in that game. I've never played it. But I think that the interesting thing is, if you have a specific thing that makes you feel like you're doing good, then it will actually force you to change your score in these other categories if you let it.
Right.
Okay.
So, as an operations player, that's what I like doing the most. So my achievement and mechanics and teamwork and socializing are very high, but also my customization's very high too. And I think that that's sort of what BioWare's hedging their bets on, is that no matter what people score in these other 9 categories, they're going to want
Right.
to customize.
I see. It's a little bit like story. No matter what
Yeah.
you're doing in the game, you can enjoy story.
Yeah.
No matter what else you enjoy with the, as far as doing the game, you can enjoy customization.
And as
Yeah,
Count
and-
Luku put it, introverts expressing themselves in a safe environment.
Yeah. And that's also, the field of psychology knows this too. If you look up articles about MMORPGs, most of them are going to talk about avatars. That's just where it's going. And I did not think about that because I'm doing a personality study. But the role that the avatar and creating it and inhabiting that character is much more huge than I anticipated. The role-playing score is pretty high too. That doesn't mean that you RP. Okay, I looked at the questions that fell into that category, and it just means that you have some idea of what this character would do in a given situation.
Right, exactly.
So, Chill Satan probably does things a little different than Chill Santa does.
Exactly.
Right? So,
And that's part of the fun.
yeah. Now, the other thing is, just last thing, and this may be because PvP people are not going to do my survey because it's too long, or it's anyway, the average for
doesn't involve twitch reflexes.
yeah, the average for competition was so low, like just not even close to the next lowest thing. So now that could be because of how those questions were worded. It may be that the people who are going to do my survey are not what we call in research grievers, where they, enjoy brutalizing people for hours on end and making sure they don't accomplish their goal. There was a question about that.
Griefing.
Right, I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah, so, that's just, so that's really an overview of what I got. The personality side, the MMO side, and the SWTOR side.
So you're saying I'm
That's awesome.
predisposed to dislike the way we're going because I just hit random every time I create a character and just hit random name and hit enter. That because
well,
I
You're
don't
an
really
outlier,
care.
Bill.
That's what I'm saying. So I'm predisposed not to like it because I don't care about customization at all.
well, you could be one of the people that made the average for customization a bit lower than it could have been. But how did you get all those items that got you 1,000,000,000 credits?
Just buying them off the GTN.
And why did you
Yeah,
buy them
Bird.
off the GTN?
To make money.
Okay.
Just simply as an investment.
Yeah.
Okay.
Bill's an economist. Well,
Yeah, so that's something that I don't have data that can really explain that interpretation. But the thing is, everyone has a different value for these 10 categories. So you might have 6 that are strong, 2 that are weak, and 2 that are not even on your radar. So, but Bill, because you're a SWTOR player, you still belong in this sample. It's just that's why we do averages for all 500 some odd people.
maybe
Right.
Bill is our black swan.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Chaotic is definitely me. Not evil. Not
Just
evil.
way at the end of
Oh,
the
yeah.
of the bell curve.
Yeah.
All right. We're running long-ish, but we got still a couple of minutes if we want to ask Daniel any more questions.
I'm good.
Trying to think what else there was that I wanted to know about.
So,
Has
in
been
your
a little while
opinion,
now.
based on everything you've seen, SWTOR is doing exactly what they have to do, and with Knights of the Eternal Throne, you could probably say they really should keep doing everything they're doing. But based on the data, is there any particular direction they should be focusing a bit more on? Given that Flashpoints and Operations actually did surprisingly well.
I think
relatively
it comes
speaking.
Yeah, I think it comes down to what they have time to do. So, it's sort of like damage control for them. If they only have a fixed schedule where they can work on 2 things and get those 2 things going, like let's say a chapter and some alliance alerts, then they're going to do that because the story, or what they perceive to be their grand story, is going to appeal to mostly everybody. Having a month where there's no new story chapter, but we got an operation, you might bring back, 20,000 players for a couple months until they beat Nightmare Mode, and then they'll be gone.
Right.
And then the people who will be loyal on a monthly basis, they didn't get their chapter this month, so now they're thinking about unsubscribing. So they're going to have to decide, and they are deciding actually, how to do the best financial thing for their game. And that is give us some cartel market stuff, get us a good story, and then I think they're looking at it, some of the things from... I think they want to give us things we can do together. But if they don't have time to develop it, then they need to pick story every time. Because the average people who really appreciate story is a much higher percent of the population than people who even attempt story mode operations.
Sad, but clearly
Right.
true based on the data.
Yeah,
And,
and nobody
of-
plays GSF except for the Dark First Light achievement.
Now, if they made a PvE version, that would change.
Oh, I would love to assault Arkan ship for like 8 minutes in a little fighter and land in the hangar.
Oh,
That would be
that
awesome.
Would be cool. It, really
It would be so cool.
Yeah.
But
How,
again,
what was
resources.
of the 500? What?
Yeah.
How many people have done operations?
I did not ask that question.
Okay. I'm sorry. I thought I was kind of intuiting that you had in some way based on.
Yeah,
your
I can tell
last
you.
statement.
So, 12% gave operations a 10, which means no interest at all. It's their least favorite thing.
Okay.
12% also gave it a 9, and 9 more gave it 8, 9 more gave it 7. So you're looking at 40%
40%.
of the people that were in my study. It's not even in their top 5 favorite things to do, which that indicates to me that maybe they had a bad experience, or they think it's too hard, or they don't have friends that they can get on Mumble and actually have a real shot at winning these things and learning them.
Right. Okay.
So
interesting.
However, PvP had 20% of people that gave it the lowest ranking of 10. So, it's GSF had 28% of people that gave it a 10. So, it's just Story had the lowest. Actually, Heroic Missions had the lowest frequency of people that don't like them. So, we really like getting credits and those little orange pieces of gear. So.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Daniel. This has been very interesting. Is there another phase where you'll want to come back on and give some sort of final information in a few weeks or something?
Yeah. The next thing that I need to do is get to where I can actually analyze what effect the personality type has on these. And after I finish with my defense and it's all done, I would love to come on and talk about that.
Great. That's a few months out, it sounds like?
I have set a personal deadline for myself of September. See, I should remember the deadline. 9th, to have a draft of the whole thing. I'll give that to my chairperson. She'll give me her edits. I'll make those, and then we'll give it. So maybe October, November.
Yeah, that's great.
I could be finished.
All right. I'm looking forward to that then. Was there anything else, too, that you'd seen in chat or anything like that, or that you wanted to ask?
Let's finish with that.
All right. Well, thank you, Dan. That's been very interesting.
Yeah, thank you.
Really appreciate it. All right, then, that's a show. If you'd like to play with us in the Utini Knights Guild on the Republic side of the Harbinger server, or in our Guild on the Empire side, do a /c join Utini to join the Utini channel. Then let us know you're a fan of the show. You can email questions and comments about the show to OotiniCast@gmail.com. Follow us on Twitter using @OotiniCast. You can find contact details for all of us on our website, OotiniCast.com, which includes how to subscribe to us using iTunes, Stitcher, and the rest. We record the show live every Thursday at 4:30 p.m. Pacific. Go to OotiniCast.com/live to find out how to join in. Our theme song is Doomsday by Jean-Paul Zogby. And thank you to the chat room, and thank you to Daniel and to Bill.
Thanks, guys.
Thank
Good to be
you.
back.
And we'll see you next week.
All right, guys, keep recording. Everyone, thank you for watching. And apparently Twitch didn't work. And I'm streaming somewhere. I don't know where. Well, OBS is sending all that data out there into the internet. But we'll work it out for next week because that's just weird. Anyway, have a good week, everyone. And may the force be with you. Or serve you well.
Now, what